I'm going to start this video by saying that there are going to be quite a few people that are upset at what I'm about to say. And it doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you fall on or whether you're religious or not. The words I have to speak will be triggering to some people. And I have to be okay with that, because where we are as a country right now is we are on the brink of something. And everyone feels that. We are going in one direction or the other. And if more people like me don't stand up and start speaking from the heart and speaking truth, then we are definitely going to be going in a direction that I believe is very dark and has a lot of consequences. So with that said, here we go. Most of you know by now that on September 10th, around 12:34 p.m., at a university called Utah Valley University, on a stage in front of thousands of people, a speaker was assassinated. It was Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA. And what followed was videos that went completely viral showing the gruesome death and nature of this assassination. And then what followed after that was a bunch of people posting online on social media saying how unfortunate this is and what a great man Charlie was and what a great loss this is. But there was also people that were posting that this is a great thing, that they were celebrating this man's death. And the ones who were consoling and sad about this, they referred to Charlie more of an evangelist, just trying to spread hope and the message of his faith. And then the others were saying that he is a racist, bigoted, misogynistic, fascist, terrible person, spreading hate everywhere. So that's what we're going to discuss today. Now, this is not my opinion. These are the facts. Fascism forces, evangelism invites. And that's what I'm here to help people understand today. Which one are we dealing with here? Who is there fascism and who is the fascist here? So let's look at the definitions of fascism and evangelism. So fascism, it's forcing everyone to think, speak, and live the same way. It's shutting down free speech. It's punishing dissent, demanding conformity. Fascism doesn't debate you. It silences you. Now let's look at evangelism. It's good news. It's sharing what you believe to be good. In Christianity, that's the gospel. In culture, it's any cause or idea you're passionate about. Now, as we just discussed, it doesn't matter what it is. Fascism can tie itself to it. It can be certain medical treatments. It can be religion, as we see in Iran and places like Saudi Arabia. It can be a political action or movement. Fascism does not differentiate it, because fascism is just a tool. It's a tool used to get people to follow a certain set of beliefs and ideologies. And this is where people are probably going to get upset, but I can actually relate with people on the left who saw Charlie as being fascist or potentially fascist. And it was due to my experience growing up that allows me to relate with them. See, I was born into a fundamentalist Christian household, and I was homeschooled. I wasn't allowed to go to school. I wasn't allowed to be around other people that didn't think exactly like my parents thought. In fact, when we moved to North Idaho when I was 6 years old, there was not a church extreme enough for my parents, so we had to keep jumping churches, trying to find anyone else who would believe as they would believe. And for me personally, that experience meant a ton of mental, emotional, and physical abuse in order to shape my mind into this being the reality, and that this was the reality for everyone. And it has done some irreparable damage where I'm still healing from that. I'm still having to work through that just by my existence, I am not a bad person, and that I do actually have a creator who loves me for me, and not because I conform to all of these sets and rules and beliefs. So I will say, I know that for some people, religion, what they know of religion, especially if they've never been in religion, it can appear that it is fascist, and that the people who are doing this and believe these things want this to be the law of the land, and they want the government to enforce it so that everyone has to live according to their beliefs. So I understand that. But there are certain lines in the sand that determine on which side you are, if you are fascist in your beliefs or if you are just evangelizing and trying to spread good news. And there are examples, there are clips of Charlie saying things that if you aren't familiar with religion and you don't know much about Charlie Kirk and you haven't heard everything he said, that you could easily believe that this guy's a fascist. He wants this to be enforced and everyone has to follow what he believes. Let's take a look at those examples now.
Well, Muslims in Texas are looking to build their own epic city. Literally, it's called Epic City. Islam has conquest values. They seek to take over land and territory. And Europe is now a conquered continent. It is not what it used to be. It's a husk of its former self, which is increasingly Mohammedan. Again, there is no separation of church and state. It's a fabrication. It's a fiction. It's not in the Constitution. It's made up by secular humanists. It's derived from a single letter that Thomas Jefferson wrote to the Danbury Baptist Convention. Of course, we should have church and state mixed together. Our founding fathers believed in that. We can go through the details of that. They established literally a church in Congress. Anyway, separate issue.
So you might be watching this and going, no, that's not what he meant. But again, you have to analyze what's your background, what's your understanding of this, because that might have given you the context to understand maybe that's not what he meant. But if you don't have that, can you see where some people might go, oh, that's who he is? And that's kind of a scary thing, to be honest, for someone who's experienced the abuse of religion being used to control and manipulate people. Trust me, it is a scary thing. But then there's these clips that people have seen of Charlie absolutely telling us that that is not what he believes. Let's check those out.
I'm a gay conservative, and I just want to ask you, what do you have to say for people like me who kind of feel like, I guess, it's kind of hard for gay conservatives because there's not a lot of us, so like, what do you have to say to other gay people who need to realize like they do have a choice?
Yeah, first of all, welcome to the conservative movement. I don't think you should introduce yourself just based on your sexual attractions.
No, I agree. I like
because that's not who you are.
I like to be thought of as a person, and
for sure, you are a complete human being, and I'm sure you treat people well, and you're studying something. So I want to get away with this idea that you're gay anything. I just think that we have gone a long way in the negative direction in this country, where we act as if the most important part of your identity is what you do in the bedroom. It doesn't mean that much to me, but if you ask from a perspective as a Christian, I don't agree with that lifestyle, but politics is about addition and multiplication. I imagine you agree with a lot of what we talk about.
Absolutely.
Right? Strong borders, strong country, and for that, we welcome you into the conservative movement.
Hey, Mr. Kirk, thanks for coming out tonight. I got a question for you real quick. Up until about 5 years ago when gay marriage was legalized nationwide, the conservative movement has been explicitly pro-traditional family. Now, both you and your organization advocate for the acceptance of anti-Christian, immoral lifestyles like homosexuality and transsexuality, going as far to invite drag queens like Lady MAGA to your events.
I'm going to ask a very respectful question, as respectfully as I can. What does what they do in their private life concern you so much that you have to go up in front of a crowd? And
it is against God. That is
so.
why.
Let me ask
Are
you a question.
Christian or not?
Do we live in a theocracy? Yes or no? No. Do we live in a theocracy?
You said you're a Christian.
I am a Christian. And do you know what? And guess what? I will say this. Part of being a Christian is appropriately interpreting what the theological says for the individual, but also means to be long-suffering and patient and loving and kind. Jesus Christ talked to all people. Jesus Christ went and did his ministry through Judea and Samaria, and he had dinner with tax collectors, and he had dinner with prostitutes, and he did his ministry in every part of the Mediterranean. What it means to be a Christian, my friend, is to be open-minded but firm in your beliefs, so you can have that belief. But if you say there's something inherently wrong with communicating or associating just because they make different personal decisions than you, sir, are not a conservative. Thanks for being here tonight.
Now, some people might watch those and goes, well, yeah, no, he said that to try to get himself out of hot water. But the fact is there are examples after examples of people who did not follow his religion that were absolutely contrary to his book that he would go and have dinner with. And they said, he did not make me feel judged. I felt accepted by Charlie. I felt loved by Charlie. And that's the differentiating factor. If you know the line in which you go, I cannot force this on anyone. I don't want the government to force this on anyone, because my book actually says that's not good. That we are to be long-suffering and loving. We need to love people into this and let them choose, because he's smart enough to know that if this is forced, those people will never know God, because they will rebel against the controls that have been placed on them. This brings me to, why was Charlie even out there doing this? Why was he out there talking to people who didn't seem to really want to talk to him? They weren't accepting his message. And it's because I believe that Charlie saw what we're all seeing right now. That our country, our nation is sick and dying. This isn't hyperbole. This is not my opinion. This is facts. You can just look at the studies that our mental health rates, the crisis is through the roof. The illness is through the roof. The suicide rates, the children born and having chronic illnesses from a young age, the homelessness, the list goes on. No one is disagreeing with me on this, that our nation is in trouble. This is really what the battle is, right? Our nation is in trouble, and who has the answer to fixing it? And I believe that Charlie was simply out there doing exactly what a devout Christian is expected to do, to go and spread the message of his faith, for that might be hope and salvation for those that will follow it. So this brings us to the next problem, is if Charlie wasn't a fascist, what do we do with the people who are celebrating his death? Because essentially they are celebrating the suppression of free speech, the person trying to deliver a message of hope to a people, to a nation that needs it. I don't know exactly what the answer is to deal with someone who rejoices in evil. But it is evil to rejoice in a man who was living by his faith and preaching what he felt was good news, was the medicine for a sick and dying nation. I don't know what the prescription is for that, but I know what Charlie would want. And it's not to be violent, and it's not to respond in kind, but it is to continue to love and speak from our hearts. We are at a time where we have to make some really hard decisions. And it's important to not get caught up in all of the other details around his death, but pay attention to his message. There's an opportunity here, because people are finally starting to go, who was this guy? I need to know what he was saying. And if we are out there echoing this kindness and love, maybe we can bring things back together and we can be a healthy nation again. Charlie Kirk was no fascist. He loved people and he just wanted to see them healthy again, and sorry if that goes against certain beliefs. He wasn't trying to force it, he was just inviting you to consider. Fascism forces, evangelism invites, and it does not matter how good your ideas are, or how bright your flag is, or how many people you think you're gonna save. Force is force, and fascism is force.